Nigeria Navy rescues 99 in Akuku Toro boat mishap.
Nigeria certification program launched in Abuja.
Federal government approves oversight committee to organize Nigeria's hosting of 4th MSMEs Forum.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on achieving better government-labor relations.
Good to have you back.
Thank you. It's
How
good
was
to be
your
back.
leave? You look reformed, refired, and ready to fire. You're welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Anyway.
It's good to be back. I've missed you.
Okay. It's Workers' Day, so come back to work.
Yeah, I'm back.
So it's a big day for Nigerian workers. Another May Day is here again. Workers all over the country are ready for a day they consider an opportunity to let employers know their challenges, successes, and expectations.
Absolutely. And 1st of May is set aside to mark Workers' Day all over the world. Nigeria began these celebrations in 1961.
Yes, 1961 in
1981, I think. Yes, yes.
1981 indeed. So today, all organized workers, professionals, students, market men and women, as well as members of other civil society organizations will mark the day, which is also a public holiday.
Okay, now issues relating to industrial peace and social dialogue have shaped labor and government relations over time. And labor unions in the country are asking government to prioritize these issues to further strengthen these relations.
Disparity in wages received by federal government workers and delay in the payment of salaries of workers by some state governors, as well as casualization and safety in the workplace, are serious issues confronting workers in the country.
And the federal government, on its part, has developed strategies and created platforms to enhance its relationship with the organized labor. And it's a good move, I think.
Yeah, it is, Jumai. It has also paid a new national minimum wage of 70,000 naira to civil servants at the federal level, while some states are also paying new wages to their workers. Just 2 days ago, the federal government announced the payment of wage awards of 35,000 naira to federal civil servants.
Yes, we hear that it's going to come after the April salary, which has started coming in yesterday. And same labor leaders, insist that certain agreements signed between the union and federal government have not been kept. Concerned persons insist the two parties must work together in the interest of the country.
That's true. They must work together for the interest of the country. So, how will this May Day turn out for Nigerian workers? We have some guests joining us shortly to speak on these issues. Welcome to the program. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I am Jumai Yusuf. You're welcome to the program. Newspaper review with Chukudi Okolugbaja. We'll get to you shortly. But first, let's get the news from Chinenye Onye. Chinenye, good morning. Happy Workers' Day. And happy new month.
Many thanks, Jumei. Hello, Ademola and Jumei. Good morning and happy Workers' Day to all of us. Here is the news. Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder says it rescued 99 passengers from a mishap involving a market boat in a head-on collision with a barge en route Akuku Toro local government area. The headquarters Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai Maiduguri informed that the incident involving the explosion of ordnance in one of its ammunition storage facilities located in the barracks. The explosion was due to the current high temperatures in Maiduguri, which led to the explosion of some ammunitions. The situation has, however, been brought under control with the combined efforts of the Borno State Fire Service Department and other fire trucks from security agencies. Nigeria is committed to unlocking the full potential of its human and natural resources to become a leading force on the African continent. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this when he received a delegation from the Hetier School of Governance, Berlin, led by senior fellow Rolf Otter at the presidential villa.
No matter how well a policy or plan is developed, the detail is in the implementation.
President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the composition of an oversight committee to organize Nigeria's hosting of the 4th African Union Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises MSME Forum, scheduled to hold between June 23rd and 27th in Abuja. The theme of the 2025 edition of the forum is Building Resilient MSMEs through Digital Innovation, Market Access and Affordable Financing for Africa. The committee shall, among other objectives, ensure adequate planning for the successful hosting of the forum, which will feature paper presentations, panel discussions, sponsored side events, exhibitions, networking, and MSME business pitching events, and presentation of prizes to deserving Nigerian entrepreneurs. Senate is investigating the planned divestment of Lafarge Cement worth 83.81% between two foreign investors to ensure that due process is followed. The Senate Committee on Capital Market interacted with key government institutions on their roles in the acquisition. Ongoing transformation of Nigeria's public procurement system has received a boost with the launch of the Nigeria Procurement Certification Program to sustain transparency and accountability in line with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda that is focused on purposeful leadership. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, embraced the initiative as a transformative tool that will address the challenges in public procurement. The Nigerian Army says the ongoing mass metering of barracks across the country has significantly enhanced power supply and optimizes energy consumption management in barracks. The Chief of Army Staff, in a statement, acknowledges progress of work in the Phase 1 of the project, which has so far covered installations of meters in Ikeja, Lagos, Ababa in Enugu State, and Adekunle Fajuri cantonments, among other barracks in Abuja, as it urges the contractor to expedite work on subsequent phases. With the Phase 1 nearing completion, the project generated 769 million naira in revenue between August 2024 and April 2025. The National Judicial Council has directed the Imo State Governor to reverse its decision on the appointment of Justice Theophilus Nnamdi Nzeukwu as the acting Chief Judge of the state. The NJC took the decision at its 108th meeting held in Abuja. The council also directed the Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma to appoint the most senior judicial officer in the state high court's hierarchy as the acting Chief Judge. The council equally resolved that Justice Theophilus Nnamdi Nzeukwu should be issued a query to show cause within 7 days, while disciplinary action should not be taken against him for presenting himself to be sworn in as the acting Chief Judge of Imo State. It suspended 37 judicial officers, including a Justice of Court of Appeal, for 1 year, each without pay. The council, in addition, empaneled 9 committees to investigate 27 judicial officers for various allegations of misconduct. And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Jume after this break. Do stay.
I am Oluremi Tinubu. the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary healthcare center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Ìjọba fún wa ní 75,000. NIN mi àti káàdì láti lọ gbà. Nígbà tí mo sì gbà, mo fi ṣe nǹkan tó dáa, mo ra oògùn nínú rẹ̀. Mo ra oúnjẹ tí màá jẹ nínú rẹ̀. Mo sì wọkọ̀ mi náà ń bẹ. A sì fi yòókù ṣe ọrọ̀ ajé pé ká tó máa rí gbé bá. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba wa òkè.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
Hi. You don't know when you have bacteria breath, and bacteria may be the cause of it. Don't let bacteria breath get all the attention. Use Close-Up with antibacterial zinc. Close-Up helps get rid of bacteria breath.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the naira. Handling the naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the naira. Love the naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the naira.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
This Saturday, Borussia Dortmund, Wolfsburg, watch live Borussia Dortmund versus Wolfsburg on Sporty TV.
SportyBet sponsors coverage of the German Bundesliga.
You're welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. Up next is Newspaper Review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja, is here with us. Chooks, it's Workers' Day.
It is Workers' Day. And when I saw you bouncing in, you defied age and aging. Your tennis shoes were quite conspicuous, Papa Jasco, how are you doing? Jumai, good morning.
Good morning, Chukwudi. It's good to be back.
Oh, that boy Alinku, Abi. Demo.
Like you say, he defies the, aging, whatever it is, metabolism.
The man is
wonderful. Get old and
he's gifted.
And he's looking under 60.
I thank God on your behalf, Demola.
Thank you for the compliments.
So let's quickly go to the papers. I'll begin with the Blueprint newspaper, and just above the masthead, we have FG targets efficiency in MDAs with sweeping reforms. That's coming from the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris. And below the masthead, NMPCL, Keverton, Stenabulk, and JVL ensure revenue retention. That's coming from Lokweburi, Minister of Petroleum. And GT Bank raises SMS alert fee from 4 Naira to 6 Naira. Osemen donates 10 million to Rema Stars for historic NPFL title win. And Customs intercepts 912 billion Naira contrabands, high-tech drones and medicals, including expired food items and others. And the picture story you see there, Minister of Education, Minister of Information, and Head of Service of the Federation, all of them during the launch of the Nigeria Procurement Certification Program in Abuja yesterday. It took place yesterday, and at the bottom plate of the Blueprint newspaper, NLC to FG at May Day. Review policy reforms, amend laws on civic engagement. With riders, Ajadi wants government to improve citizens' purchasing power, and textile workers upbeat hail Tinubu on Garment Development Board. Pilgrims with 60,000 Saudi Riyal must make customs declaration. That's coming from the Saudi government for those who will be going for the 2025 Hajj pilgrimage. That's on page 6. And 2027 campaign and get sacked. Diri warns appointees. That's on page 10. NDIC clinches first and third at Public Service Innovation Competition. You find the details on page 20. And boat mishaps. Minister distributes 42,000 life jackets across 12 states. Let's quickly go to the Nation newspaper now. And above the masthead, we have Delta APC ready to receive Ibori. Operavory declares. You find the details on page 39. IBAS retrieves government vehicles from suspended deputy governor. Details on page 3. Banks charges on SMS alert goes up by 50%. Page 5. And president should remain in South till 2031. And just below the masthead, workers deserve commensurate reward for hard work, says government. With riders, we will make laws friendly to labor. And NLC seeks opening up of civic space. And at the bottom plate of the Nation newspaper, NJC hammer falls on 3 judges. You find all the details on page 4. Edum reforms driving long-term private sector-led growth. All the details on page 2. And 15.6 billion gratuities Forex Kanu political officials. Details on page 38. That's about what I have in the Nation newspaper.
Okay, I have the Daily Trust newspaper with me. Just below the nameplate, North Central Governors Mall joins security operations. Details on page 38. Bank customers to pay 6 naira on every SMS transaction alert from today. Details of that story is on page 12. Plateau traders lose 1 billion naira to midnight inferno. Details of that story, it's on page 6. 2027, ACF gives condition for North's support. And we have the aftermath of fire incident at the Jos Terminus main market, Plateau State, on Tuesday. Then we have May Day, 70,000 naira minimum wage, not enough. Workers. Details on page 5. How swindlers preyed on miracle seekers at Kano Holy Site. Then we have the details on page 10. 4 years after police resumed vehicles tinted glass permit issuance. Details on page 14. Kidnappers chop off victims' hands. Sean ransom. Details on page 25. Chooks.
Demola, we've already hinted this Workers' Day, and the first thing to do is to congratulate the Nigerian worker. You know, out there in the market, workers are fighting a losing war. Yeah. That is the truth. The minimum wage is grossly inadequate. They need more money. But when President Tinubu called them and talked to them directly, I wasn't there. But I want to assume that what he said was, we know that what we are giving you is nothing. But given the state of the economy, that's what we can afford. He talked to them and it got to them. But even in spite of that, the Nigerian worker is still on tenterhooks. I don't know, I can't see a minimum wage review in the next 1 year because a 3-year gap or whatever one would call it was instituted. The next review would be maybe in 2 years' time. It has to be periodically, spaced out. So in between now and then, what are the palliatives the Nigerian worker can get? Is it subsidizing the efforts of those of them who have time to engage in agriculture? Is it occasionally bringing in things to the office that they will take away to augment what something still needs to be done? Ever since my wife became frail, I started going to the market, and I got to know that I had been maltreating her, I was not giving her money. I got to know. And this woman would never complain. Tears came into my eyes. So, look, the Nigerian worker is in pains. Whatever can be done has to be done.
I think one of the things that government can do is to provide, to augment or to this transportation system.
Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't mention that.
Because most of the pay
yes,
goes to transportation.
Provide transportation, subsidize.
There was too much hullabaloo about CNG powered vehicles. Where are they?
At least if you have that, if you don't have any issues going to work and coming back and moving around, that will reduce the stress.
Let's talk about the immediate environment. What stops government from putting at least 3 CNG vehicles, the 52-seater type, between, let me talk about my axis, you can talk about yours, between Nyanya and Kerishi? These are things that could be done. The Nigerian worker needs help. We understand the position of government. When people talk about...
And also the issue of housing as well.
Housing, that's the
subsidized
ultimate.
Housing.
That's the ultimate. The other time I was talking about...
The issue of housing.
The other time I was talking about the wisdom of the Southwest Manile mentality. Build it as early as you can. Some of us regretted not following the Ilemi, So it is very important. He has to have a house to go back to when he retires. But even before retirement, these are things that should be done.
And if these things are done the right way, it will curb corruption too.
Because
people steal money because, the things are not...
Juma, I know you're a good woman. It's just that you have refused for us to get closer. It's understandable.
Get closer for what?
Don't divagate. She made a point I need to, we are not encouraging corruption.
Yes.
This is
but not all the women you see out there who are commercial sex workers would walk those streets if they had no alternative. I'm not saying I chose that one deliberately. Otherwise, I could say lesser sins. Sin is sin anyway. There's nothing like lesser sin. So you have a point there. Help pull them back from the precipice that thrust them into the cauldron of sin. It's very important.
It's very important.
Yeah, let's look at this issue of bank customers to pay 6 naira on every SMS transaction allowed.
Has it not started already? I noticed it's already started. I wanted to link it to the workers' plight.
We're getting used to it because they will like yesterday I saw a deduction of 8, was it 8 naira or something? Yeah. When they say they deduct 8 naira, 200 naira is going.
Yes.
And I wonder how they do that.
No.
You're deducting 8 naira from my bank account, and when I see the alert, you've taken 200 naira.
Kingsley Osadolo will keep on paying for being good on the job when he was here. He talked about the humongous profits.
Yes.
These banks recite at the end of each financial year.
I'm telling you.
Whereas services are not so good. And they are pilfering money from the people.
Now you transfer money, you don't even get the alert. The person receives it, but you don't get the alert as record.
That's happening to you?
As record, yes.
I still receive the alert.
I think they need to do a lot of work.
We need to do a lot of things. We are talking about workers. You're talking about a very meager percentage of Nigerians. It is not just May Day for workers. It is May Day for every Nigerian that gets into the marketplace there and has to spend money. Let us find ways we can. Agriculture is around now. The rains have come. In Delta, maize and the rest of them are also already knee-high.
This conversation will not end here.
It is said that if you want to move mountains tomorrow, you start by moving stones today.
Quickly,
Demola, the Southwest Initiative of Amoteku, because you read something about Northwest governors or whatever, let people adopt it. You could echo all the wisdom of the sons of Oduduwa. It goes beyond that to taking real action against real problems.
Yes.
Let them exploit it
In
the Northwest.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate you as always.
Bless you.
Take
you
a
make
break
me
when we
happy.
return. Good morning, Nigeria. And our conversation will begin. Our guests are already here. Don't go away.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we are more than destination. We are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian. The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
This Saturday, Everton.
Jake O'Brien! Through it goes to Decore!
Ipswich Town.
And Johnson is there to double Ipswich's lead. Johnson, he's got it into the middle, and then Ciso scores.
Everton versus Ipswich Town, live on Sporty TV.
Sportybet sponsors coverage of the English Premier League.
The federal government of Nigeria wants vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
This Sunday, live on Sporty TV. Bologna.
Mussolini! Bologna have won it!
Juventus.
Vlahovic. Coat Miners!
Bologna versus Juventus. Live on Sporty TV.
Brought to you by Sportybet. Play with champions.
You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Our conversation today is on 2025 Workers' Day. To set the tone for the discussion, let's listen to this background report by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
May Day, celebrated globally, is referred to as International Workers' Day or Labor Day. Traditionally, workers gather together on this day to celebrate, commemorating the workers whose vital works keep countries and businesses across the world running smoothly. It recognizes the rights of workers and honors services rendered over time. In Nigeria, 1st of May is usually a public holiday set aside for workers. This is an occasion to commemorate and thank workers for all the hard work they do. To many, it is as well time to reflect on the relationship between government and labor unions, and for labor to find a voice and platform to hold the government responsible in delivering its mandates and promises to the people. In Nigeria, fruits of these labor-government relations can be seen in series of remunerations to workers, such as the national minimum wage, which had a 3-year review plan, later modified into 2 years. Worthy of mention as well is the wage award given to Nigerian workers to cushion the effect of hardship on workers in the country. As this year's May Day is celebrated, how beneficial has the day been for the Nigerian workers? We have guests joining us shortly to respond to these and other issues.
Thank you so much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that report. And we have here in the studio seated, our guests are already seated with us. And let me begin by introducing this morning Comrade Joe Ajero. He's the President, Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC. You're welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
The other one.
And I also have seated here in the guest Comrade Nuhu Toro, PhD, MNI, TAGA, General Secretary, TUC. You're welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerian workers.
Also joining us for the discussion today is Comrade Tommy Etim Okon. He's the former National President, Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, and first National Deputy President, Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC. Welcome to Good Morning, Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. Still joining us is Comrade Dominic Alancha. He's the Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right. And just a reminder for our guests, our viewers, you can also join in the discussion. Remember to send us your comments and questions to our phone line 081-696-88126. 081-696-88126. The number is displayed on your screen there. You can send us your questions or suggestions by WhatsApp. You can send by WhatsApp to this number. Thank you very much. All right, let's commence with today's discussion by speaking to the number one worker in Nigeria, the president of Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajero. Tell us, because most times, workers are always looking forward to the May Day. It's very important day for every worker. Tell us, what does the day mean to an average worker in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. Frankly speaking,
May Day started in Nigeria in the 80s. Significantly, it marks the day that groups of workers in faraway US and other parts of the country demanded for 8-hour job, demanded for leave, demanded for maternity leave, demanded for, improved wages. And as time moved on, it was during Shagari's administration that Nigeria now enacted it, as a law, declaring May 1st as public holidays, as a day we remember the sacrifices made by all these people. Because prior to now, especially during the colonial era, what we had in place was more or less slave wage. People go to work even till the following day. It was not calculated the number of hours they were supposed to work. But this time around, 8 hours, 5 days in a week. Now you have weekend. You have 8 hours. Within that 8 hours, you have break. So that day is so significant for every worker that it's a day kind of slave wage, slave labor was kind of moderated to a decent work where people are supposed to work, and they now have their right to negotiate whether the hours of work, whether the amount they will be paid, whether they will have leave, whether they will have weekend. So it's a very important and significant day in the life of a worker. So in some places they say it as the Christmas day for workers all over the world.
Yes, exactly. It's Christmas Day for workers all over the world, and it's a public holiday, so workers can rest at home. Not us anyway, we're here working. Let's talk about labor-government relations and how the efforts that is being done to enhance this relationship.
Yeah, well, it's not something that is fixed. It modulates, depending on the government, their disposition to workers' welfare. The present administration came with a kind of renewed hope agenda, and they wanted to, they said they were going to give a living wage. At the end of the day, we got a wage, but it's not a living wage, which is what everybody can say. But the fact that we moved it from 30,000 to 70,000 shows that the spirit to do it is there. Okay. But what we now saw thereafter, is what baffles everybody. If you look at it, if you move it to even 1 million today, and the currency is floating, and the naira is devalued, and then all indices, remove subsidy, then the tax today is to some public servant is more than 70,000, and then the tariff today to some people is more than 70,000. So when you look at all these indices and the inflationary rate, it defeats the whole essence of moving from 30 to 70,000. But in reality, we have moved. Ordinarily, movement from 30 to 70,000 is about 130% increase. So I think you don't just move for the purpose of having the quantum. You have to equally address all other indices that will make that movement to be relevant.
Indices like?
Like inflation, tariff of telecom, tariff on electricity, tax. So if we keep all these things constant, and they are at manageable level, if naira is at par with dollar, Ajero will accept 2,000 naira. But when naira has lost its value, and then what's the essence of talking of 100 million to 200 million? So it doesn't make sense. So in order to make this meaningful, we have to check all other variables. And when we check all those variables, even when we are collecting 10,000, it will make a whole lot of sense to us.
Okay, Comrade Nuru, let's look at some of the challenges facing the workers today. What are some of the present challenges that the workers are facing right now?
Well, thank you very much. The challenges are several in the sense that it ranges from unfair labor practice, not honoring of agreement. Oftentimes we've entered into agreement with employers and government, and we discover at the end of the day that these agreements are reneged upon. That is not a fair labor practice, that negates the essence of collective bargaining. So, beside that, we also discover in some workplaces, our workers work in excess of the stipulated time frame. Because what the labor law says is normal working hour in Nigeria and anywhere is 8 hours in a day, and anything done in excess of 8 hours should be treated as overtime. But in Nigeria, the reverse is the case. So there are a whole lot of other violation of workers' rights in Nigeria that the trade union movement is confronted with. But I just picked those few so that it can set the pace for that conversation. But it's really bad. Like Comrade Ajero tried to enumerate, you see, when there's an increase in terms of wages and there is no commensurate value for that increase, what that seeks to achieve is it erodes the entire wage increase. And at the end, the worker will prefer, interaction with some workers will suggest that they will even prefer to be back to where they were, because then inflation was controlled, the naira had value, and foreign exchange rate was managed to some extent. Until that is checked, believe you me, like the earlier speaker spoke, even if you increase wages to whatever you might think, it still wouldn't be commensurate to the value that should put food on the table of a worker, his wife, and perhaps 4 children.
Okay, that's great. Let's bring in Comrade Okon into this conversation. You've been part of the struggle, and that is the word I want to emphasize. Whenever we talk about labor-government relations, we say struggle. Is there any need for struggle? Should it be that way?
Well, let me first correct my proper introduction. I'm the immediate past first deputy president of TUC.
Yes.
You know, I want to thank Nigerians for being so resolute in especially the Nigerian workers. You know, the word struggle is absolutely, there's need for it. Because if you look at our slogan shows evidence of struggle, said the struggle continue. It therefore means that it's an endless circle. Because the employers of labor have taken it upon themselves to put those who produce what they earn in perpetual poverty and bondage. So you have to struggle, because no amount of expression or negotiation will make them to get fed with the negotiation. Like we look at today, because they have already intentionally placed labor in the receiving end. If you look at the labor laws today, they are obsolete. It's not in tandem with international best practice. So the evidence of struggle is pronounced, because where employers of labor are intentional, you know, in their policy direction, it shows that you have to also push to, you know, to get what you feel is a little bit, you know, for your survival. Not just you, but by extension your family. Our colleague discussed about the eroding of the 70,000 naira minimum wage. That tells you that from the point of discussion, they didn't come up with variables to tell you which one is meant for transport, which one is meant for housing, which one is meant for live ground, which one is meant for education, which one is even meant for feeding. You know, and that was what we put on the table. So if government have seen that the workers have something to offer, they need to have look at variables in discussing or in arriving at the collective bargaining agreement in terms of the minimum wage. So the struggle element of it cannot be removed from any labor movement. It is embedded and it will stand even till after us.
Okay, the struggle cannot be continuous.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Let's bring in Comrade Dominic Alancha now, who is a public affairs analyst. I mean, you've listened to the comrades, you know, in the studio, and they talk about their struggle, talk about the challenges of workers and all that. My question would be, what role should government, labor unions, and employers play in ensuring that workers' rights are protected?
Thank you very much for having me. I think first I really sympathize with the plight of Nigerian workers, given the current situations we found ourselves. Where the present administration inherited a very fragile economy, very fragile in the sense that there are a lot of things that is happening to the economy and stuff like that. The removal of subsidy, complicated, the issue of, the plight of the Nigerian workers, where even the 70,000 naira, living wage, according to the government, that was negotiated by labor, cannot, in some cases, put food on the table of the Nigerian workers and his family. But you see, like I often said, the Nigerian labor has a lot of, especially the leadership, and thankfully they are all here, they have a lot of role to play in ensuring that they extract commitment from the Nigerian government. And thankfully, this 70,000, like the president said, usually is negotiated after 5 years. But the president is proposing a negotiation that will span within 2 years. They come back to the table and negotiate it. But you see, it's not only on the purview of the federal government alone to be committed to even paying the 70,000. I noticed that the state's labor union leadership, they are very weak. They are not holding state governors accountable. And the removal of this subsidy have put so much funds in the hands of state governors that 70,000 payment for a Nigerian worker should not even be an issue. But what is the labor union doing? You guys need to strengthen, your state chapters so that they could hold government, extract commitment from them to pay this minimum wage. And beyond that, there is also need for labor union to also hold government in terms of accounting for governance. What are they doing in terms of transportation? What are they doing in terms of our education? What are they doing in terms of our health, housing, and all of that? The labor union also have a role to play in that aspect. So for me, I think the understanding that yes, there is a spirit, there is a willingness from the part of government to be committed in enhancing the welfare of worker on the part of government is is commendable, and the labor need to come back to the drawing board and then put up strategy that will extract more commitment from the government. And the government, from my understanding, they are very committed, because the president, in his Renewed Hope agenda, is committed to ensuring that, there's prosperity for all. And, the Nigerian workers, from my own understanding and the way I look at it, our advancement economically and developmentally depend on the civil servants, civil service. There is need for them to have a good package so that their commitment to their work, in fact, that package will enhance or motivate some sort of commitment which will lead to more productivity. So the labor need to wake up and do more in extracting commitment, not only from the federal government, but from the state government.
If you
also
say the labor needs to wake up and extract more commitment from the government, how do you think they should go about it? At least they're here, they can at least, in what ways do you think they should go about it if they have not been handling it, properly?
Comrade Joe Ajero, the #1 Nigerian worker, is here. The last time when this subsidy was removed, I think in October 2023, they set up a tripartite committee that should look at certain things that government need to do, which also that committee negotiated the labor, and then there are certain things that were agreed, in that meeting. Part of it is to ensure that our refineries are working. Part of it is to ensure that, certain, things are put in place so that the plight of Nigerian workers, it could cushion the effect, of some of those things. I have said it oftentimes that I've not seen the labor coming back to Nigerians to tell them the status or the state of, execution or commitment of government on those, agreement that they have reached. For example, what is the state of our refineries today? After the sack of Mele Kyari, we are beginning to see, a lot of issues on the social media, report here and there of fraudulent activities and stuff like that. The refineries are not even meant to refine, petroleum products from what we are even getting right now. And these are some of the things I think if Labour, can hold government, because they agree, with them on that committee, that government within a stipulated time will, put some of these things in place so that the Nigerian workers, the 70,000 living wage or minimum wage take home, cannot be overburdened.
You're also a comrade, I can see.
Would you like to respond to some of what
that's
you
what
said?
I wanted to respond.
Let me commend him and thank him for the observations he made. But I think if we follow this thesis from him, from January to December there will be no work in Nigeria. From the way he's placing it, holding government accountable. It's like transferring governance to the labor unions. You don't need anybody, if you're a state governor, to push you to pay people for coming to work. You don't need it. But that's what we are seeing today, that you have to fight, for them to come to work. Now let's come to the issue of the agreements reached with government. Part of 90% of such agreement is not restricted to the labor, because there is a docile citizenry as of today, who, when you increase pump price of petroleum product, will be calling labor. You don't have up to 8 million Nigerians on unemployment. And even those on unemployment, even with 70,000, can still go out 1 day or two. But other Nigerians, that all these things are affected, they just stay at home. And all of us say labor. Even when people quarrel with their wives, they say, where is labor? And I'm telling you on issues, if we want to restrict issues on issues of workers, Nigerians will perish. When we talk about subsidy, removal and all that, it affects every Nigerian. It's just like talking about tariff increase. And you have your GSM, I have my own. And you say labor. I'm trying to explain this clearly. Because when you have a docile citizenry, that is what happens. They look for excuses. Labor. Why? Okay, the refineries are not repaired. It's labor. Because when it is repaired, it affects every Nigerian. Do you have any basis to import when the crude is here? Because even at negotiation, I give them this example. My grandmother goes to farm and brings cassava. And she will not bring out the one she's supposed to eat to the children. She will sell all of them and go to market to buy garri. That shows she's not intelligent. But she was not doing it, even when she doesn't have a degree in economics. But that's what Nigerian government is doing. You sell crude to buy refined products when we can refine here. If we do that, nobody will be telling you of international rate or whatever, because you don't need to buy it at international rate or in dollar. Now these issues are now referred to labor. Now we even agree with them on cash transfer to the least paid, because Nigeria was seen as kind of poverty capital of the whole country. And we say 25,000 to the least, the lowest. Those ones are not workers. But we went into that agreement, and we have been pushing on it. What you see is that even before that meeting ends, they are getting injunction from the courts. Those judiciary people are Nigerians who are giving injunction that this thing should not be implemented, or we should not even take any action.
Then why set up the committees?
That's the question. That question goes back to the Nigerian state that does all this. All these committees, all these agreements. Okay, let me tell you wage award. Those in the federal public service, 5 months they are still owing them wage award up to this moment. And it was voluntarily entered into. That until new minimum.
The government has announced that the payment will commence.
Okay, after 1 year of even the implementation of new minimum wage, because we say this will be paid until a new minimum wage comes into force, and these are now arrears of the world. Some of those workers have retired. Some are going to retire before you pay it. And you want to pay it, you now say you categorize it monthly instead of paying arrears, that it will be useful to them. So it's like all agreements are implemented in breaches. And that's what you see. Now every day, oh, labor again. Oh, Ajere again. You know, it will seem as if we're on the street. Now they have gone further, you know, to compress the civic space. For any protest in this country, they mobilize troops ready to kill. And it's not done. I don't want to tell you my own private experiences in trying to protect workers' rights, from kidnapping to arrest and detention. So is that how to operate? Because you say these agreements, you entered into them willingly. 70,000 is poor enough, but we needed to start from somewhere. Mr. President said, if you allow me to increase pump price, I will pay people 250. We say we are coming back. Let's go and reason. He said, no, I'll give you 2 hours. We say, no, give us 1 week. We went and met and came back and said, Mr. President, if we allow you to increase like that, it's not just the workers, Nigerians will suffer. We rather accept 70,000, don't increase. But after that agreement, the pump price went off. Now, so how else do you expect us? We should be on the street on a daily basis. And who are the people? None of them here fought the military out. We are the people that sacrifice. And then we have democracy. And then you want us to equally undermine it, you know, by responding to action and the inactivities of the government.
Okay, let's move from the salary to the salary wage and agreements with government. And let me ask you a question. What is Labour doing, apart from the struggle with the government, in trying to enhance the capacity of workers? You know, every country is moving towards technology now, and workers need to up their games too, so that their productivity can be seen. So what is the Labour doing to enhance the capacity of workers, so that whatever you're being paid, you're working for it?
You know, I tried to mention this earlier, that you have labor-government relation, you have responsibilities, you know, that is assigned to you. The responsibility of training and retraining, upskilling, you know, is the responsibility of the employer to the employee, so that his productivity will be high. If you employ idiots, your company will not work. So while unemployment, you make sure they upskill, so that you have enough productivity. Now, when this is not happening, that is where, in some instances, you know, we organize training and workshop by the unions. There is hardly any union, talk less of the labor center, that doesn't organize, you know, all these trainings and workshops. In the NLC, at least we have 2 major schools, Hamatan and Rain School, every year for all this upskilling training. But does that capture? Now you see us now training for the employer, you know, what should increase his productivity. And like I said earlier, you know, the Nigerian employers, whether government, whether state, whether private, you know, have adopted a measure that is not helping the system. You know, and I say this without missing words. If you meet an average worker now and find out the last time an implant training was organized, you discover that some of them, even after employment, have not experienced it. So it is something that has to do with partnership. And in all agreements we sign with government, we emphasize on this issue of training and retraining, you know, from time to time. But I think they have been failing on that. The little we have, we try to organize this training, but it's not enough, because we don't have control over the resources. And this is very important area in a country like Nigeria that is advancing. But what we have is like, you know, Nigeria is not just an underdeveloped country, it's becoming an underdeveloping country. You know, even some good things we had earlier, because this training was common in those days, we are losing them. So we are receding. So if this call for us to continue to train, to meet up with other parts of the world, is very, very important. Some of us go to international programs and we meet other people. You know, that is where you see that there is something missing between the way we acquire skills and theirs. And this has a lot to do with even our educational system. You know, you can't be closing schools every other year and expect to be at the same place with the rest of the world. So there needs to incentives. You know, if we have good incentives where workers can even access, you know, these opportunities to be trained. It must not be internationally. You know, we can do them implant from one place to other. They will be good for it. Let's even take issue of retirement. Most people that retire go home to suffer. Apart from the fact that you will not even pay them pension, there is no skill. You know, towards retirement, people should be trained, you know, to be at home. You know, some people become rich after retirement because of the skill they acquire to be independent, to work for themselves. But that one is not even happening as of today. So our life seems to be that of lamentation and agonizing all these ways.
And struggle.
Yeah, the struggle is our life.
Struggle and lamentation.
Yes.
All right. So let me just bring in the Comrade Okon here. And we're still talking about, you know, developing the worker skill now. What do you think employers, you know, what do you think, what are the things that you think employers, not only government now, it's not only government that employs, generally need to employ to support, you know, worker skills development and career growth?
Well, if you look at the international theme of this year, Workers' Day, which has to do with technology and future of work, you look at it from a perspective of the population vis-a-vis the technology. Is it to advantage or disadvantage because of the population? I agree that coronavirus came into force and also show another way where technology became the order of the day, where you can sit at the comfort of your home and then still working, where some state governors happen to give 2 days in and maybe 2 days in or 3 days off, where you can use your internet facilities to do all these things. And then that alone shows that the usefulness of technology. But when you compare it to the population of Nigeria, how many people access technology and vis-a-vis the socioeconomic challenges where the tariff in terms of technology, telecommunication, you know, happen to be very high, you know, today. And when you look at that, yes, the future of work for Nigeria.
Comrade Etem, yes, just take a pause now. We want to join our colleague who is on standby. Okay, please go on.
So when you look at that, and you come to look at the future of work, what capacity do you have? Where someone that graduated, an employer is looking for 5 years experience before you are employed, or where employer is looking for somebody that is 25 years or 22 years, not minding how many strike, you know, it has been, you know, in the university and so on before you can engage, thereby creating an environment that even the skill that he acquired cannot be useful because you don't create enabling environment for integration, you know. So these are the things, you know, no matter how you want to upskill, you need to create enabling environment, enabling work environment. If you go to Federal Secretariat now, you'll be marveled what you are seeing because the environment is not even conducive to work. Do you have internet facilities? Whereas this thing is in other climes, even in the street. You have internet to do your business and your telework you can see.
Okay, comrade, just a moment, please. Sorry. I think our correspondent Ignatius Nkwo is ready. He's at the Eagle Square to tell us the latest on May Day celebration at the nation's capital. Ignatius, just give us a brief. What is happening at the Eagle Square concerning the workers' celebration?
Good morning and thank you, Demola. Yes, here at the Eagle Square, from the look of things, if you can see from behind me, you will see that the atmosphere is gradually building up, full of anticipation. If you see by my left side there, you can see the organizers of this event are beginning to, you know, lay the platforms and prepare and set the seats that they are expected to, most of the seats that will be on the VIP blocks, they are getting set with that. And behind me here, you can see that the chief security officers are all stationed in strategic places. Media houses are setting their cameras and putting things in place in preparation for this event. Well, the atmosphere generally, like I did say earlier on, is gradually building up. And then while entering the Ego Square, you find out that there are some affiliate unions who have already arrived in their buses, but then they cannot enter inside the square at the moment because it's not yet time, because they are still putting things in order. So when you go outside, you see that quite a number of them have arrived, and some of them are even there, you know, chanting and singing their solidarity songs as usual. So it's anticipated. It's anticipated that it's going to be quite an energetic event, energetic moment. So, but any moment from now, we expect the union leaders and then government officials as well will be coming up here today too, in solidarity as well of this event. So we expect that any moment from now, when this event comes up, when the event takes up, well, the solidarity, Ego Square will be hosting Nigerian workers to mark the 2025 Workers' Day.
Thank you, Ignatius. What time exactly is the Ego Square supposed to be open for workers to come in? Do you have the specific time?
That by 10 o'clock, this event should be taken up in earnest.
We'll get back to you to give us an update. Anyway, we have the leaders of the workers in the studio here, so immediately they are done, they will join you there. Thank you so much, Ignatius, for giving us an update there. So let's come back to the studio. Comrade Ekong, you can continue with your thoughts.
Yes, now. Thank you. So upscaling, you know, like I said, is in twofold. Yes, for the employers and also for the employee. But the key word is environment that is conducive, because if you don't have a conducive environment, the healthy competition that can lead to high productivity will not be there. I can also tell you, even the convenience in the Federal Secretariat is an eyesore. You don't even need to go for a meeting and then have a way to ease yourself. That is as bad as I could say. So you now look at the population to tie it to, you know, even in Japan, that they produce computers and so on, they still believe in manual, you know, because if you don't take that into consideration, you are breeding a population that will also add to the insecurity, because where the facilities are not there to accommodate everybody, those that are left behind will also find something to do. Like we said that an idle man is a devil workshop. So we must also tie, you know, technology and the population, taking cognizance of our culture in order for us to have a conducive culture and a great population that will also stimulate the economy in terms of the inputs.
Indeed, you know, for output to be relevant, for people to give out good output and make sure that the work goes well, they need support. And I believe that, yes, I've been to the Federal Secretariat, and it's an eyesore. Actually, you can't get anywhere that you can just go ease yourself and do that. Let me come to Comrade Nutoro. You know, Comrade Dominic said that the unions in the states are weak. So most of the time they depend on the center, for the center to struggle and fight and get whatever it is that the states, the workers need, especially in the state. Why is that, and how can it be stronger? How can you make it stronger? How can state union be stronger to be able to stand their ground and request for implementation of any agreement that has been taken, maybe at the center, that will transcend to the states?
Well, Comrade Dominic has a right to his opinion, but without being theoretical, I stand to differ. Yes, we don't expect the same level of commitment from state, because we are individual, we are different sets of human beings, people have different styles and modus of operandi, but ultimately at the end of the day, we should not throw away the fact that those state councils that he alluded to have recourse to the National Secretariat, which suggests we are keeping an eye on them and monitoring them from time to time, Yes, you can also rule out entirely some inefficiencies here and there, but it would be very wrong to generalize that they are weak. I stand to differ. They aren't weak. However, if he posits that there is need for capacity development, there is need for them to upscale, I agree. The world is dynamic. It's a global village. And to also buttress the fact that in the trade union movement, what keeps us up to date is the core values of education and capacity building. That is what drives us, because we have to measure at par with employers and with government. And from that standpoint, you will agree with me that the only thing we need to do is to upscale to be able to measure up at that level. And it's against that background that I went to the National Institute. We have various trainings abroad and local. Comrade Ajero has also said it. At the TOC also, we have series of training for our members just to bring them up speed. The world is changing and we need to move so that we can be able to negotiate better welfare packages for our workers. The days of banging tables are over, but that does not mean we can't roll our drums and come to the street. But we are upscaling, and we are also training the state councils so that they can also be at their best. So the illusion that state councils of both Trade Union Congress and the Nigerian Labour Congress are weak, in my opinion, is not correct.
Okay.
Let me say a word.
In fact, before you say the word, I think there are some responses from our audience, our viewers, and I think it aligns with what you are talking about. So my question, he said, good morning. My question goes to NLC President, sir. Is this NLC President? Is this 70K minimum wage for all MDAs, or there are selected MDAs that are excluded? One. That is from Saleh Bala. Then my question is, the new wage award, the state workers, are they included? That's Chukudi from Abia State is asking that question. He said, the new wage award, the state workers, are they included? Then there is another one. He said, I'm particularly concerned about the kind of treatment that private sector workers receive from their employees, which is very bad. Workers' incremental step comes after 10 more years when workers complain. They will tell you to resign if you feel their treatment is not good enough. After all others are looking for the job. After all others are looking for the same job. This is not good at all. Samuel from Makurdi, Benue State. Would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, let me take them along with the issue of dilution that the state councils are weak.
Yes.
Because we have state councils, and for instance, in the Nigerian Labour Congress, we have about 60 industrial unions. So all of us, all these unions should be able to take a blame on what is happening, if there's something. But in the case of the states, I will say that the states are under attack.
By whom?
By the state governments. So that we understand it, because it's not good to leave the world weak. I'll tell you, if you watch today, we stopped the May Day in Edo. What is the problem? The governor came in there and probably decided to recognize an auditor as our chairman in the state. Now, each time, most of the governors, and I'm saying it here, try to moderate or dictate who becomes the chairman of any of these unions in their states. Where it doesn't work, that's where you see fight. And that one we have. And most of them are their staff. So except where you have some resistance, like in Edo now, the person is not a government employee. So he's not likely going to take the dictates from the government. So what they do is to impose, who should be NLC chairman in the states. If they succeed, they start to threaten them. As we talk today, there's an announcement in Edo that any worker that doesn't come to the stadium, ABC sanctions should be imposed. Today is Workers' Day and not Governor's Day, for goodness sake. So these are issues. Those are the fights these guys are passing through in the states that now make somebody from outside to say whether they are weak or they are not weak. They are under attack. The same thing with unions, like the one you raised. When we signed the wage award agreement, it was not for federal. It was wage award general. Even before the agreement was signed, some states were maybe paying 10,000, 20,000. And it was expected that they should align. Now, whether they now align or not, because ours is to take a decision there and allow industrial unions, you civil service union, you Association of Senior Civil Service, you electricity union, you NUPEN, to go and implement it. Now, depending on the strength of these unions, some of them, as at today, have not implemented it. And it is not the duty of the NLC to go from one place to the other. Some have not even informed us, because when they inform us that this has not been implemented by this state or by this union, we get involved. So that is the issue. Now you will not even rule out compromises by union leaders, because they don't live in the air. So if you now have people who maybe the governments impose, or the managers or the MDs of such companies impose, and they promise them probably a promotion and all that, now you have a problem. And that is why in the trade union movement, we now have full-time and part-time to checkmate this. There are people that are employed by the trade unions and they pay them. Those ones, the management or government cannot sack them from job. And there are people who are workers, who are elected to balance this job. So this attitude of, arresting the workers, compromising them, coercing them is there. So if you see it manifest in one or two states, yes, but that does not translate to weakness.
Okay, how do you now protect the interest of workers in private employers?
Exactly, I was coming to that point. You
Yes.
see, oftentimes this category of workers, are not unionized, because fundamentally, if you deny them their right to unionization, they are being violated. That is the starting point. So when workers are not unionized, they are vulnerable. Of course, that is when the employer can decide who gets what, can decide their promotion, can decide their welfare. And most times, employers don't understand the fact that unionization is not a right. It's not a privilege. I beg your pardon. It's not a privilege. It's the worker's right. And it's not at the discretion of the employer, which suggests that the worker can decide to belong to the union of his choice. And why do we join union? For this type of issues to be mitigated. So my advice to those category of workers is to try as much as possible to be unionized, because it is only when you are unionized that you have the latitude of collective bargaining.
But if the employer said you cannot, and if you take that step, we're going to sack you, what happens?
That's where the fight
is there any
comes.
protection?
The employer will always say that, because
Is there any protection?
He will meet a fight now.
That is where the struggle continues comes
He will
in.
meet a fight.
Because
So you need to be unionized to be able to fight for your rights in the private sector.
Yeah, I can't come to a place that the people are not my members.
If they are sacked, how do you protect them? Because they are sacked, they are not paid. Would you take care of their welfare?
of course, there are rules of
If they are
engagement.
unionized.
There are rules of engagement. And you see, in the union, that is why we keep it low in trying to unionize the workplace, so we don't make the workers vulnerable. So I tell you, both the TUC and the NLC have rules of ensuring that workers get unionized. And if they are not unionized, it is difficult. It is very difficult for you to add value, to get any welfare for those category of workers. So we urge them to find out where our offices are, both the TUC and the NLC, or the affiliate unions that are in their sectors. I'm sure there are workers in that workplace that have worked elsewhere and are unionized. So they need to come together and they need to speak out. That is the only time they can, be protected from both the NLC and the TUC, and even their union, their domestic union. Which brings me to the theme of 2025 May Day celebration, opening up the civic space amidst economic hardship.
Okay.
Now, if the civic space is open, our workers are at latitude to ensure that their rights and privileges are protected. Unionization is key, because that is the starting point for workers' protection. If you are not unionized, you might not be at latitude to negotiate, because an employer cannot negotiate with an individual worker. They will only negotiate with a union. So from that standpoint, you'll agree with me that unionization is essential, is core to workers everywhere, irrespective of whether they are public or they are private. So long as they meet the requirement for unionization, is a right and not a privilege.
Indeed, because I have a question. Somebody asked, but you've already addressed that question. I hope you that sent the question you now have your answer. Unionize, join hands with the NLC and the TUC, and then you'll be able
But employers
to fight for your
are
rights.
deceiving them now to opt out from union, because that's where it starts. You see people, even at the point of employment, they ask them that now you are being employed, you are not going to belong to any union. They sign it. And this is contrary to even Section 40 of the Nigerian Constitution, which says a worker has the right to belong to any. So these violations are what most of the time, brings us at loggerheads with various employers, especially in the private sector.
Especially in the banks,
yes.
because he said that, good morning, Nigerians. I want to appreciate you guys for initiating this program. I want you to also speak about the private sector, especially the banking sector. We junior staff have really suffered in the hand of this sector, working several years now with no promotion. I believe you'll be able to address that question.
Yeah, but most of the banks have union. There's ASBIFE and there's NUBIFE in most of the union. And any bank that is not unionized, I mean, we are in the jet age. They should draw the attention of the TUC and the NLC and see if we fold our arms. The more, the merrier. Yes. We have a responsibility to defend workers anywhere. So if there are such cases, they should bring it to our attention. We can't cry more than they bereaved. You can't do what you don't know. It is only when this is drawn to our attention that we will take it
Those
up.
ones, are they members of the union? Because if you
not.
have a union, in a workplace, you have 100 people, and only 20 people decide to belong to a union. The other 60 or 80 will continue to lament. ABC has happened. ABC has happened. Meanwhile, you say you don't want to belong to a union. So I think those are contradictions that will...
Okay. I need to sign him off because you'll be leaving now, and we need to take a break. When we come back, you'll be able to bring your competition. Comrade Nuhu Toro, PhD, MNI, Daga, General Secretary, TUC. We hear you have something to do right now. You have to be at the stadium. Thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. We appreciate your contributions to the conversation.
God bless Nigerian workers.
So we'll take a break. When we return, our conversation will continue. Do stay with Good Morning Nigeria. And go away.
Well, creativity is so broad. I would say whatever it is that you're creative about, it takes a lot of practice before you become very good. So if it's something you intend to pursue, it's something you have to keep doing. You have to keep practicing. It's not going to be an overnight success, which a lot of people look for. But if it's something you're determined about, but the drawback rather, is that you need what is called staying power. While you're developing your creativity, you need to earn a living. So I know that's where the conflict usually comes in, especially with the hardship in the country and all that. But I think a lot of encouragement from the private sector to create incubator hubs. We've had some of those in tech. We need those across various sectors as well. Incubator hubs where these ideas can come in, be developed, be encouraged, be funded, and then we can expand it from there.
Content creation, while it may sometimes get a bad rap, I think it's actually very important because we have to see ourselves. We have to see ourselves living our lives. We have to show and share our stories. I think that's very important. Now, the job after that is to be able to digitize those stories into something that can provide data and insights, that can ensure that we can be able to support whole-scale industry in these spaces, to ensure that the amount of money that each content creator is getting exceeds what is currently happening for many content creators. The same content creator who lives in Nigeria will be earning less than a content creator who's living in the US or the UK or Japan. And we've got to also bridge that gap because most of that is being driven by the ability of the consumers to pay for those goods. and also the pricing that many of these platforms have. So I think this is not the job for the content creators and the young people. This is a job for people like myself in the ecosystem who can help support the right pricing, to advocate for the right policies, to support economic development for consumers who want to consume that information and that content. And even beyond content creation, we're seeing that many people are stepping in behind the camera. They are producers, editorial, they are graphic designers, they are in technology, but maybe not in front of the camera. And what we want to say is also, we need those people too. We need those stakeholders involved. And the job of many policymakers, DFIs, is to ensure that the strategic investments get there, the collaboration gets there, and we're deliberate in how we're saying we want to support innovation in our continent.
There's an age group where your brain function is at its maximum, and that's the age group we call the youth, isn't it? So we need the youth, the younger generation, who have the energy, the imagination to be equipped with the proper education, the proper tools, the proper encouragement, and then take what innovation they bring out and turn it into mainstream developmental ideas. So you find a lot of things that are invented by people in school or straight out of school. We need our patent laws to work so that they can earn a living from their imagination. Once the imagination is just for a one-year festival or an event, then it's not worth it. Somebody creates something, we need to get our patent laws to work, we need to enforce them, and then the private sector can use those patents to develop things and encourage more people to be more creative. Back in the days, yes, you had to be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor. Today we have programmers, we have AI specialists, we have people that are doing ethics on genetics. Those things didn't exist 50 years ago. So there are new areas that need to be explored. The question really, apart from the parenting, does our educational curriculum cater for what the needs of the world will be in the next generation? Because our curriculum is dealing with the issues of the past. We need the government and the private sector to redo the entire educational curriculum to be forward-focused, not retroactive.
This Sunday, Espanyol, Real Betis. Espanyol versus Real Betis. Live on Sporty TV.
Brought to you by SportyBet. Play with champions.
You're welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. We've been discussing Labor Day with the head of the unions here in the studio. We have the NLC president, and the TUC president has just left us. We have other guests in the studio. We've been discussing about Labor Day and how it can enhance the welfare of Nigerian workers. Let's come to you, Comrade Okon, and talk about the theme for today, this kind of message that Nigerian workers will expect to hear from the leaders of the union. Will it be heartwarming?
Well, it's in twofold. Yes. We have to salute their dexterity, and their docketiness in the midst of the harsh socio-economic environment. We have to salute them for still living with the hope that the Renew Hope agenda will be hopeful. We have to salute Nigerian workers for managing 70,000 naira to pay their house rent, to buy food for the children, to pay the children school fees, and also to pay transportation to their place of work.
And medicals.
And medicals. We have to salute Nigerian workers for believing in themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even survived it. We have to salute Nigerian workers, especially those who have been kidnapped and struggling for the family to pay ransom. We have to salute Nigerian workers in Benue, in Plateau, that their community has been already hijacked and battered, family killed. That is why we said, well, let us come back and celebrate them. And of course, the theme speaks for itself, you know. So for us, we can play the role of lizard from Iroko tree, who said, if nobody prays, we can praise ourselves. So that is the hope. In other way, we also have to drum it to the ears of government that you cannot pretend that it is Uhuru when you know obviously it is not well. It's like a father who knows that the children are not eating and he's telling you there's no problem. Why there's problem? We have to also use this May Day to drum to the government the need for them to also review their policies, taking cognizance, look at their policies. Every policy has gestation period. If a policy is coming 2 years now, we've not seen the trickle down effect. I think this is opportunity for us to tell the government. It was just last night that the government paid the salary and school resumed a week ago. That tells you how the government is taking Nigerian workers. So we will use this opportunity to also remind them. Yes, they have talked about the wage award, and they admitted that 5 months is still pending. We also use this opportunity to tell them to pay it en bloc. Otherwise, the value has already been eroded because they renege on the agreement. So the consequences of reneging on the agreement has to be there. So we have to tell them. I'm also happy that there is a way out for them to know that Nigerian workers are well enlightened now. So we also use opportunity to tell them the truth. What we are happening or seeing happening in the private sector, vis-a-vis in the state and other sectors of the economy, we also use the opportunity to remind them of the labor laws which came to effect since 2005 and up to today has not been enacted. We also use opportunity to remind them. We also use opportunity to remind them that the federal workers need gratuity, because you cannot work for 35 years or 60 years as the case may be and you just live with pension. We also use that opportunity to remind them that they must create a conducive work environment if they want what we call productivity improvement and international ranking. They also need to remind them. We also need to remind the government that even the refineries that they gave us hope, we are hearing that it is not working any longer. We need to remind the government with that. We also need to remind the government that it's time for us to look at the wages again. And we need to remind the government that negotiations should be based on the living wage. By that, it also look at variables, not a lump sum.
Okay.
For us
All
to
right.
determine
Okay, that's good. You're reminding the government of so many things, which is okay. And let's come to Comrade Dominic now. You as a public analyst, how can the government support workers and businesses in navigating these economic challenges? No doubt, we know we're having the economic challenges. How do you think government can support workers in this?
Okay, thank you very much. But before I delve into your question, I'd like to, put something and crave the indulgence of the leadership to understand, the perspective in which I'm speaking from. As a public affairs analyst, I like to always be objective. And I like them to know, because I interact with Nigerians on a daily basis. And we know that today there is no Nigerian worker that do not have at least 5 dependents, on him. If you look at it, you can say 40% of Nigerian populations are dependent on the Nigerian worker. So when I say, or when you say that we have a docile civil Nigerians or citizenry, I I'd like you to know that this citizenry you are talking about also depend on the Nigerian labor. They repose their confidence in you to navigate, to chart the roadmap for them to follow. And that is why I'm saying that on that tripartite committee, there are civil society representation, there are private sector and all of that. You know, so let's understand the trust that Nigerians have on Labour Congress, Labour Union.
At least to lead.
To lead and to, you know, create a roadmap for them.
Right.
Now, coming to your questions, there are so many ways the government can support the Nigerian worker and Nigerians in general, you know, to alleviate the current economic challenges. We've been talking about skill here. Skill is one of those things that the government should, you know, skill up Nigerian worker to empower them. You cannot empower the Nigerian worker without building his capacity, without building his competence, without skilling him up, training and retraining and all of that. So I think, and you know, I have issue with the theme of the Nigerian worker celebration today, which is reclaiming. There is nothing to reclaim. You only reclaim when you lost something. I do not think you have lost the civil space. You have not lost it. You only need to exploit it. Exploit it and see what, you know, the outcome will be. And I believe that if we exploit the civil space, we're going to have a lot of outcome. And then talking about skill, especially to the, you know, to the private sector, I don't want to say that I see, you know, unionizing private sector as a Herculean task is doable, but then the private worker also need to understand that it depends on him. He need to develop himself. He need to make himself indispensable. When you make yourself indispensable, there is no employee that will just treat you anyhow and say if you don't, you will negotiate
Even
your
when
salary.
You retire, you have something.
You have something to do. You know.
I'm going to pause you a little bit there because we have some questions before we come to NLC President Ajero. One of them said, "Let there be subsidy. Federal government has to subsidize some certain things like transportation, education, housing, medical care, and make sure that cost of commodities are affordable in the market." That is from Nnamdi Chinedum. And there's another one that says, "To the NLC chairman, our #1 worker, I want to thank you for your doggedness to the plight of the Nigerian worker. There is need for labor to please push for the review of the minimum wage agreement and make sure that the promise of the FG to make available buses to ease the cost of transportation is done. Another issue is there are states that have not even implemented these 70,000, including local government like the FCT. Area councils should come to the aid of the area council staff and their LEA counterpart. The said wage award, if paid accumulatively, will help a lot. It is long overdue. Labour seems silent on this since last year until now." Well, the NLC president has sort of talked about it. And then there's another one again. "Happy Workers' Day. NLC president, we need you and your team to do more in the civil service for the betterment of Nigerians or well-being of Nigerians." And that's coming from Nadis. And then there's another set of questions. I'm going to take all so that you can be taking them one. You know, "Good morning, Nigeria, and all the persons in the studio. I have a concern, which is the local content of Nigeria, or Nigerian content, as it may be called. Every Nigerian employer wants to enslave his or her employee, and because nobody regulates what they do, they make employees die so many times in their cocoon of fear of the unknown by threatening employees with sack. We need a selfless regulatory body and not enrichment bodies that will continue to impoverish Nigerians. There are employers in Nigeria who forbid their employees from going on leave all lifetime, and they are never paid leave allowance one day. If this whole thing must work at all, Nigerians must shun the mentality of getting rich overnight." Now, NLC President, and one other thing apart from these questions I would like to talk about is the disparity in salaries. I've heard you talk on so many forums on that. Some workers collect so much and then some collect just peanuts at the end of the month. So if you can address these questions that I've read out and the disparity in salaries too.
Okay, I'll come to all this, but I needed to explain why I said they were becoming very docile. You know, I've been in the struggle for some time as a student union leader when NLC was not there. When NLC was dissolved, as at 1988, we organized the anti-SAP protest nationwide. It wasn't labor. And we said no from Nance. And all areas were shut. And Babangida was shaking. And he came out to broadcast to Nigerians that this is a civilian coup. At that point, he came up with 1 million jobs, created DFRI, MAMSA, People's Bank, road safety. All these issues were because of the resilience of Nigerians. Through Nance then. It wasn't the NLC. Again, during the June 12 annulment, NLC was dissolved. The civil society, the CD, and other people came out to the streets. And the country couldn't move until the military left. It wasn't labor. Even if where labor had to lead, the people must come out. Ask yourself, how many protests, even when it is on pump price of petroleum products, which is not just labor alone, how many people have come up? When last did you see such coming up or for labor to move? Now, these things must be complementary. So it doesn't seem as if labor is talking about themselves. And some people will tell you, oh, when they give them money now, that's kind of mentality you have in Nigeria. And who is that person giving you money? Is it the person you are fighting? So I needed to clarify this.
Okay.
And then coming back to the issues you raised, I don't know the one I'm supposed to handle
disparities
first.
in salary.
Yeah, disparity in salary has to do with even the implementation process, which is faulty. Let me tell you this here. We signed 70,000 minimum wage. And those of us from the trade union movement knew what we were going for. When you sign 70,000 naira, it is for the person on level 1, step 1. By the time you finish level 1 to step 15, and there's incremental increase of about 2,000, the person on level 1, step 15, will be getting about 100,000. And I'm saying this loud.
That's consequential.
Yes, the consequential adjustment. You go to level 2, which stops at about step 14 or thereabout. You must have added another 30,000, which is about 130. You go to level 3, the person is almost on 160. Before you come to level 4, where you even see people in the public service these days, because almost level 1, 2, 3 are almost vanished. So we are talking of the least paid now in the public service to be getting close to 180 or thereabout. But what is happening? We have signed that agreement, and the implementation, various employers, governors and all that, now from different sectors, now started saying that the least paid in their state is the person on level 4, and then that's the person they are paying 70,000. I don't know whether you understand what I'm... Now, because people are just entering employment, maybe with school start, messengers, whatever, those are the people that should be getting 180, 1 whatever. Because it's good we make this clear here now.
Okay.
But they now go to implement it from level 4. So when you do it, you have disparity. Now, assuming a state follows this process.
I'm not talking about disparity of the 70,000. I'm talking about disparity with workers across Nigeria. Like there are some agencies that collect 1 million, 2 million.
That's what we are saying.
Yes, yes.
What we negotiated is minimum wage. And the ability to pay. That's what made us to consider that. Okay. Because the federal government was ready to pay more than 70. But they considered state government that were complaining and the organized private sector in now looking at, the benchmark. If you watch, state governments are paying 85, some are paying 80. Your ability to pay, if you can pay 1 million, you can. But you should not pay less than 70,000. So in some other areas, private sector, whatever, organized private sector, people earn. Most organizations don't depend on 70,000. They have their own
what about the CNG buses that
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was part of our agreement.
Okay.
And that was the best way. We felt that if we get that,
yes,
with 70,000, things will improve. But we have gotten about 90 or thereabout from the federal government, CNG buses.
Okay.
And from the NLC, we have distributed them across the country. But you know that 90 is not even enough for one state. But far from it, is the infrastructure. If you give us CNG buses and there's no place to fuel it, then you are still buying PMS, since it is hybrid. So as of today, you can see a bus. It's like a carton. You know, until you get the infrastructure, you get the fuel, that CNG, to fuel it, that process has not commenced.
You have 90 for now.
Yes.
And they are on the road. They are applying the road.
With PMS.
Not gas.
Not gas, not CNG. So that's the issue.
Before now, we used to have labor buses all around, at least in some states. At least I've seen when we were younger, labor buses in Lagos and sometimes in Abuja here. What about
the Lagos City Transport Services in Lagos is still there. We are still operating it, you know, on daily basis. But it is not enough. You know, I think it was the Obasanjo government that gave those buses then. Yes, you know, Babangida came, you know, but those ones packed up. Obasanjo brought another one. Between that time and now, those buses are giving us even more problem to keep them on the road.
Okay, let me just take.
Can I just add a perspective to this?
Okay, that is
CNG buses.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yes, you see, I told people, I said, this CNG of a thing, the key to the success of it is infrastructure. When you look at nations, you know, that adopt CNG buses and failed, I've not seen one nation that has failed, that have succeeded in, you know, CNG. They all has failed
but
as a result. Whether gas producing nation or non-producing nation, they have all failed because there is no infrastructure. Look at Abuja, for example. I think we only have one or two, you know, along the airport.
Yeah.
By the time you go there, you see queues, you know, queuing up to buy CNG. So the government need to deploy, you know, invest in the infrastructure before we talk of releasing the buses and stuff like that, which will go a long way.
Okay, we have some questions here, which we'll just take 2 or 3 of them. And the first one is, thanks for the discussion. My problem is on state gratuity. Most state governments have refused to pay this money and nobody is saying nothing about it. Can Labour do something in this regard? After years of service, one's right is denied. It is evil and sinful despite the removal of oil subsidy. I think there should be a law henceforth. Then this one says, that is from please tell Comrade Ajero to stand up and save education for the children of the poor people in the FCT. Or Bada Jr. from Kuje FCT. And this one says, why is it that pensions allowance for retiree is not affected in the minimum wage?
Okay, let me start from there. Each time we review the minimum wage, pension is reviewed. You know, I think if there are areas it has not happened.
I think the area it has not touched is those on contributory pension. You know, because those other one that came before 2004.
Yeah, the defined pension policy.
So
those are paid. Yes. But if you have contributory pension, is what you contributed that they pay you, is not the state that is paying you. So that's one of the disadvantages of the contributory pension. However,
that is, if you are on contributory pension, you will not be affected by the
increase. There's no increase now. It's what you contribute that they will pay you.
But those who retired,
under the normal pension, whatever, they will review it with salaries, although not much. However, the contributory pension, made provision for your money to be invested. You know, and if it's invested, whatever, you know, interest on it, you equally should be paid to you as dividend. You know, I think that's there's another question you raised there. I think the first question,
education in Abuja.
Yeah, that's in terms of their salaries. We had a protest about few days ago, and I think the FCT minister said he has released money, and they are going to it why it has not been paid. You know, that is where the area councils and education, you know, in Abuja, you know, they are having challenges. There's a question before that.
Okay.
We was talking about pension.
Fine, gratuity. The issue of gratuity is a deliberate policy by the federal and state governments not to pay gratuity. I happen to come from the private sector, in fact the power sector to be precise. And in all, because you need to equally look at the power of the unions. In negotiation, what is important is power relations. If the employer knows what you can do, he will respect you. If you know what employer can do, you will respect him. In all the power stations in the country, we have gratuity and various other unions that could negotiate this. Because government was hiding, and various employers, under the Pension Reform Act. Now, Pension Reform Act is not Gratuity Reform Act. Pension is different from gratuity. And no government or individual, private or public, will stop being gratuitous for services rendered. Gratuity is that lump sum you are given at the end of service. In those days before it was institutionalized, companies like USC will give you golden wristwatch and whatever to thank you for service rendered. And suddenly, the federal government that should be a regulator and employer is not implementing it. And this calls for concern as we talk today. So if they are not doing it, the other people, will not follow suit. It's just this discussion, I'm surprised that the Minister of Labor is not here. Because all these policies, violation of labor rights, whatever, is the responsibility of the Ministry of Labor. Before now, we used to have the Inspectorate Division of the Ministry of Labor that goes to factories.
They're still there.
Yes, but what's happening? Goes to factories. In some factories in Lagos, people, were roasted because of health and safety policies that were not implemented. So these are purely government policies. And if Ministry of Labor is not in such discussion to tell us how far, as regulator, they have gone, I think this discussion, we may have to, reorganize it.
Because of time, let's just round it up now. Because
I
of
needed
time.
to touch on one thing, the Contributory Pension Act 2014 as amended did not stop the payment of gratuity.
Did not.
I went, when I was the president of association, I went as far as inviting the Pension Commission to give a talk on it, and they accepted the fact that did not stop.
So why
but
did you pay?
I even met the president on that. But it is still the civil servant that are frustrating the effort, because these are the policies that have moved around their table until they retire before they realize.
So what message do you have for workers on this day and government?
Well, we are in a place that there is a lot of lamentation today. I have to tell you the true situation in the country. Not because we have not done one or two things that should have made it easier.
You have all the names?
We have moved.
You have all the names?
We have been able to move the minimum wage from 30 to 70, which all things being equal, should have been able to, enhance the well-being. Somebody collecting 30 now collecting 70. We have been able to look at the issue of CNG. If you need to fill your tank with 50,000, under 15,000 with CNG you fill your tank. And those are the areas we looked at. That okay, instead of every year we protest that PMS they have increased the price, let us look for alternative. That alternative, if it was done, could have assisted us. So at this point, since we have a Renew Hope agenda, we still ask the workers to have hope so that things will get better. But we're going to double our efforts to make sure that things improve.
Indeed, you're going
Workers
to double your
to have
efforts.
hope that
Comrade
things
Joe
will get better.
Ajero, President Nigeria Labour Congress, thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria today. Time is never enough to talk about issues like
not
this.
on all these
So
issues,
thank you so
Maybe
much.
we'll have part two
Comrade,
of this discussion.
Yes, Comrade Tommy Etem Okon, former National President, Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria, and first National Deputy President, Trade Union Congress of Nigeria. Former.
Yes.
TUC, thank you so much for your contribution to the conversation. And Comrade Dominic Alancha, Public Affairs Analyst, you have the pulse of Nigerians, so you know what's happening.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you very
analysis
much
of
for having
the
me.
issues.
Although we don't know who awarded him.
And just Good Morning Nigeria for today. Yes.
Well, we'll join our colleague Ayodiji Bakide, who is standing by, or will I say sitting by?
Sitting by. Ayodiji, I have a question for you.
All right, Ayodiji.
What are you expecting as a civil servant? What are you expecting from the labor union? What do you expect them to do? And do we expect good news from the labor union in their message today to Nigerian workers?
Well, obviously we expect greater news, particularly issues of welfare, insurance, and for those who are senior citizens, remember, we'll all enter the club one day.
And hazard allowance too. Thank you so much. You can take it away from here.
All right. Thanks so much, Jumai Yusuf and Ademola Adeoye, for that very engaging conversation on Good Morning Nigeria, particularly for this day, Workers' Day 2025. And from the Good Morning Nigeria studio, I'd like